Christmas parties are pretty easy to celebrate in youth ministry. But how do we celebrate Advent? Happy Advent, everyone, and happy birthday to our church as it is the start of a new church calendar. Advent is this beautiful season of preparing our hearts for Christ's coming and celebrating his birthday as he came to this earth, and also ultimately thinking about his second coming, his coming triumphantly. And so how can we prepare our hearts and our minds for this season of Advent prayerfully when long before the season had begun, we've seen Christmas put out all throughout stores, Christmas music playing, especially this year more than ever have I seen people saying, it's 2020, time to celebrate Christmas because I need the joy. And boy, do we need the joy. But how can we prepare our hearts for this season of Advent? Well, one way is to help the youth that I came up with is actually helping them make Advent wreaths. So this is not an actual Advent wreath. It's just the base of it. It's a ring. Picked it up at some local craft stores. I had to go to a bunch of them to find as many as I needed because you don't actually find too many of them in the stores. So I grabbed a bunch of these and packs of Advent candles, which come, of course, 3 purple and 1 pink. And I am having an Advent wreath making night. How do you make the Advent wreath, do you ask? Well, actually with real evergreens. So I'm going to get an actual Christmas tree and chop some of the greens off and use them and help show the youth how to weave them into this crafty ring and be able to allow them to make their own Advent wreaths. The reason I was inspired to do this is I was talking about Advent wreaths to some of my youth, and they had no idea what it was. They didn't know what an Advent wreath was. So much so that I had to actually Google Advent wreath, show them a picture of it, and even still they were like, I think I've seen one of those before, maybe in church. And I'm like, man, we had one of those on our dining room table growing up every year during Advent. And we lit the candles each week. And so allowing these youth to not only experience it for themselves, but also for experiencing it with their families. Because now this Advent wreath, whether they remember to light the candles or not, we hope they do, will be sitting on their dining room table where their family's passing by, the younger siblings, older siblings, parents, and they see it. And it's a reminder of their faith. And we hope that they do light the candles, and you can send them home with the prayers to pray each week and a little Advent prayer service that they can do with their families. And it's just a beautiful way to incorporate family also into their homes, the ministry into their homes and into their own lives that they live in their domestic church and their families. And so making Advent wreaths is one way that you can bring that season of Advent into your youth ministry. Maybe you're not as crafty. Maybe you're like, this is well beyond my scope. Or maybe they're sold out of these in stores by now. It's something to think of for next year. How else can you do this? Well, if you have youth group on a weekly basis, maybe you can have an Advent wreath that you can just pick up and keep in your ministry space and light the candles each week when you meet. Whether it's on a Sunday or not, celebrating that week of the Advent season and talking about it and saying different prayers as you light them. Maybe you could really focus on that, preparing our hearts and what we need to do to root out the sin of our hearts that's found within our hearts and our souls. So having time for confessions at your youth ministry, allowing those youth to experience that grace of confession and ridding out that sin, and in turn getting those graces to grow closer to the Lord and preparing their hearts. And lastly, maybe it's not putting so much of a focus on the Christmas party, but on this season of Advent. So it's really important to share this season with your youth, to make them know about it, and to, again, help them prepare for Christ, for his coming, and especially to put that focus on Christ's birthday on December 25th. You know, we love our youth so much, and we want them to have this fullness of the truth of our faith. Advent is one of these ways that we can pull out little focuses of our faith into our youth ministry program. So I hope that you have a blessed Advent. I hope that you can incorporate some Advent things into your ministry program, such as Advent wreaths, the prayers, the focus on our hearts being ready for the Lord. In turn, you're going to touch the hearts of the youth, which will touch their souls. Happy Advent, everyone.